I introduced myself right at the top, but Andy Buhler with SBLive here, unveiling the Capital City Classic boys and girls brackets. A lot of excitement around this event. It's an annual pre-Christmas event for everybody that tunes in. Already knows that. The field was unveiled here about a month ago, but now we have our first look at the matchups. So without further ado, I say we just dive right into them. What do you guys think?
Sounds great.
Let's do it.
So on the girls' side, where would you like to start? Do you want to start right at the top, and we can kind of go from there? This taking place December 19th through the 21st at Corbin University. It's an 8-team tournament in the second year of a girls' bracket, and I know this is an expanded tournament this year in year 2. But starting in this top quadrant, we have Oregon City playing Rex Putnam in game 1. Central playing West Salem in that part of the bracket, and then Silverton South Salem on the 19th at 8:30 p.m. That will play the winner there will play the winner of Newburgh and Willamette, which takes place just before at 5:30. So starting with Oregon City and Rex Putnam, what do you make of that matchup? Both of those teams coming into this year.
A great field. We're excited to have really excited to have the girls involved. What a great location in Corbin University. So, first, right off the shoot, 4 p.m., our first game on the 19th, we bring in, kind of Oregon royalty in terms of the Oregon City Pioneers. You go in there, you see a lot of banners from especially the 90s. Coach Tiffany Tarver, I think, has some good youth players coming. This year they return, 2 girls, a junior, Molly Miller, who comes back 7 points per game. And then she's a high IQ player, and then senior JC Stingler is another player that's coming back to him. They did lose some seniors, but I know talking to Coach Tarver, they're excited to build off their 17-9 record and second-round playoff match last year. They're going to play a team that loses the Player of the Year last year from the Northwest Conference. But they returned 4 starters with Rex Putnam, starting with senior Emma McDonald, who comes back averaging 14 points per game, and junior Riley Lemon, who averaged 12 points per game. And both teams really want to play fast, so it's kind of excited that first game out of the chute. I think you're going to see a lot of game going up and down, and we're excited for that one.
It's a great place to start. I should have said this at the top, but for those tuning in live right now, please drop any comments in throughout this live breakdown, and we'll be happy to answer anything that comes our way. But playing the winner of Oregon City and Rex Putnam is Central and West Salem. That game takes place, as you said, at 7 p.m. on that first day. What stands out about those two teams?
Well, again, 2 teams that want to play fast. And 2 teams that are on the west side of the Willamette River there. They're probably within 12 miles of each other. Central comes in playing in a tough Mid-Willamette conference. They bring back 2 really good players in that conference. Senior Sadie Wendering, who averages 18 points per game, and then sophomore Hadley Craig, who put up some really good numbers as a freshman last year, 11 points per game, 7 rebounds per game. They have some depth that they've added, and they're going to face the returning Mountain Valley champions of West Salem, who they returned the Player of the Year from that conference, Lizzie Bennett, who has continued to add. I know Coach Singleton is very excited about what she's added to her game. They also are looking for 2 seniors to jump in and play bigger roles, Maddie Diaz and Elizabeth Guile. And again, they're going to play fast. They also have 4 freshmen on their roster too. So again, a lot of youth coming for Coach Singleton as well.
No question. Just heading down to that second part of the bracket, you have Silverton and South Salem playing in the nightcap in that first day, 8:30 p.m. tip on the 19th. Starting with Silverton, what stands out about this group?
Well, a really good program that Tal Wold had for a number of years, and he stepped down this last year. So Alyssa Ogle steps in and takes over a really good team led by junior Kylie Brown. She might be one of the top players in the state. She comes back. She just dominates the stat sheet. She had 18 points per game. 5 rebounds, 5 assists, and averaged almost four steals a game. Really high IQ player. And then they have a really good defensive player in Kirsten Kinsey that came off the bench for him, averaged 8 points per game, and she's going to step in as a starting role for the Foxes, who I just found this out. I think they're the only school that has a mascot of the fox that's on the West Coast.
Is that right?
Yeah. Interesting. That's a facto. What's the Dan Patrick facto stat of the day?
Yeah.
Right there. Add that one up.
It's funny. We at SBLive, we just got done with a project trying to identify the best mascot across the country, and you wouldn't believe how many of them there are of just that you would never have thought to even think of. And I would think that the Fox might be taken, but that's, you got to lay claim to it and plant your flag.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but the Foxes will play a really good team in South Salem, who's had some a really good pedigree, in the Valley Conference. 18-6 last year, lost in the opening rounds, but they returned 2 seniors. Maggie LePray, 13 points per game, 5 rebounds per game. She was also just voted goalie of the year and soccer player of the year in the Central Valley Conference this last fall. And then they're hoping senior Carly Peterson will step in to fulfill some roles. They lost 7 seniors, but again, they're looking to play fast, just like many of our teams here in the girls' Capital Toyota bracket.
No question, yeah. And then, you kind of look up and down this bracket and rounding it out, let's see. We got Newburgh-Willamette left, or no?
Yep.
Newburgh-Willamette to round it out then as the final matchup. That takes place at 5:30. Winner plays the winner of Silverton South Salem. Losers play one another. Starting with Newburgh, what stands out about that group?
Well, this matchup entirely is built off of sensational sophomores. Both teams have a number of sophomores playing with him. Newburgh 13-11 last year. They only have 2 upperclassmen on their roster, so a lot of freshmen and sophomores. They're led by Lydia Gray, who was a returning starter as a freshman, 9 points per game, and then Izzy McCree, 9 points per game, was also a sophomore returning starter. And they're hoping freshman Kenzie Bluebaugh, who's coming in to play a little point guard for them, can step up to continue to be a catalyst for their season.
BJ, you look up and down this field here in this bracket, and you talk about some of the teams that are looking to prove something, the teams that will be led and are going to look to underclassmen to step up. You were a coach. You spent a good amount of time coaching at Sprague, and I know that coach title never leaves you. What is it about a tournament at this time of the year before Christmas, when a team might still trying to find its identity? How important is clicking in a tournament like this? And as a coach, how do you kind of look to a group early in the season to make something happen?
Well, I think it's a good test, right? I mean, you kind of get a couple games under your belt as you start in December, and then you get this opportunity to kind of simulate where you want to end up as like a final site, and get 3 games right in a row that you're going to see if you make it to that final site and you're looking to bring a trophy home. Which really our last team that I don't want to miss here in the Willamette Wolverines. They bring back another sophomore class, but all these sophomores were freshmen and played last year. They're led. They were 27-2, finished 4th place at state. They bring back a first-team All-Stater, Bryn Smith, 17 points per game, and then they have Victoria in the win, who's another sophomore, 8 points per game, and Maddie Warburg, 12 points per game. So they bring back some experience, even they're young. Across this field, you're going to really see what leadership comes in at this, and I think coaches will learn a lot about who's their leaders and what kids are going to step up from their roster to help continue to add depth as they go through the season.
Yeah, and just overarching before we put a bow on this girls bracket, I mean, coming in is the second year of this bracket, the second year of the girls field and an expanded bracket. What can fans who come to this event at Corbin look to expect out of this 3-day event with a loaded in-state field?
Well, what I've seen is we've got teams that really want to play an exciting brand of basketball. They really want to get up and down and play. Having the shot clock come in next year, I don't think many of these teams are going to have an issue with that shot clock next year. We have a variety of different talent and leadership. We got leadership as seniors. We've got great young players as well. Teams are talking about having players that are high IQ. So, going to have players that are going to be able to make a play down the stretch. So, looking for some really close games, teams competing and getting after it. Girls in this state really have upped their game, and it's been fun for me being on the boys' side to be able to see a lot more of the girls and what the coaches do and how to put them in spots. I think it's going to be a great environment, great place at Corbin. Excited for these girls to showcase their talents and represent Oregon well.
On the girls' side this year, too, in the 2023 class, I think there's 13 players signed to Division I schools to play basketball next year, which is really incredible. And that's maybe, I don't know the exact numbers, but that could be the highest ever girls or boys in the state.
You look at a tournament like this and just the, girls basketball is in such a tremendous place in the state of Oregon, and it's clear that this field should offer a glimpse at that. So tickets you can find on capitalcityclassic.com. BJ Dobrkovsky, I really appreciate you joining to break down the field.
Love it. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Yeah. On the boys side, 16-team field. Jack, assistant tournament director, Jack Roche, I know you guys have been talking about how excited you are for this field, not just for those national caliber teams, the John Paul II from Texas, the Modesto Christian CIF Open Division runner-up, and the St. John Bosco, who you might know is a great powerhouse football team. They've got a pretty good basketball team too, taking on a really, really strong Oregon field. Why don't we just start at the top of this bracket? And again, head to scorebooklive.com/Oregon or capitalcityclassic.com for a full look at these brackets. But that first quadrant up top, you have at 5:30 on December 17th, when all those first round games take place, Canby and Modesto Christian. And then you've got Gresham and John Paul II. The winners will advance to play one another, likewise with the losers. Let's start with Canby, Modesto Christian, Jack. With that matchup and those teams, what stands out?
Yeah, so one quick note on sort of our process is, all of our matchups are, we have a committee, they get together, it's loosely seated. We take into account, a wide variety of factors, the travel matchups, avoiding same league play. And, we also do a slight flip just on the competitive balance side of things to avoid, like the 16 seed matching up, with a Modesto Christian. We think that improves the competitive balance. So Canby's definitely, not our 16 seed. They have very good program. Coach Matt Taylor has taken over this year. They graduated a lot last year, but they should be very competitive. They dropped down to the Northwest Oregon Conference in Class 5A. Connor Ginsman is a talented guard that saw some time last year. And 6'6" junior Trevin Slagle is another player that they're pretty excited about. And then, Modesto is incredible. Jamari Phillips is going to put on a show. BJ Davis is one of the top guards on the West Coast, committed to San Diego State, ranked around the top 100 players in the senior class. And then, guys like Jalen Brown, Prince Osai are also Division I players too. Coach Fantasia does an incredible job down there. And, they'll be really, really difficult to beat in this year's CCC.
Winner of that game gets to take on the winner of Gresham and John Paul II from Texas, reigning private school state champs in Texas. That is earlier in the day, 2:30 on the 17th, that first day. Starting with Gresham, what jumps out about good old Gresham?
Yeah, for Gresham, it's definitely senior Isaiah Pippa-White. He is, very, very good. He's easily one of the top players in the state. He was the Mount Hood Conference Player of the Year as a sophomore. Very, very talented player. They have a bunch of pieces around him that are pretty good. Gresham is going to be a very, very tough out this year. And then looking at John Paul II, their star is 6'7" junior Bryson McLaughlin. He has several Division I offers. Off to a great start so far this year. Texas starts a little earlier, so they've played a couple games already. And then in this one, it'll be really interesting to see how each team defends the other star. Who can probably limit the other star better is probably going to win that game. But that both JP2 and Gresham have really strong games, or really strong teams. That could be, they could maybe upset Modesto. We'll see.
No question. Yeah, I have a question for you, BJ, once we get down to maybe a couple more of these national versus state matchups. But before then, we'll jump to South Salem and West Lynn, play at 8:30, that nightcap. I guess these are on the 16th. The South Salem, what stands out about a local team coming into an event they're well familiar with?
They do, South is a very strong program. They return just about everybody from last year. They, they have two really good junior guards, and Eli Gabriel and Greg Comer. Both those guys averaged double digits last year. Shot a high percent from three. And it'll be interesting to see how those guys match up against, Jackson Shellstad and Adrian Mosley, because, those are Adrian Mosley and Jackson Shellstad might, according to some people, might. So, with those guys and seeing how South's guards match up against them, that'll be fun.
No question. I know a lot of eyes on that West Lynn team, but if I'm South Salem, I'm going, let's try to shock the world in round one.
Yeah, and they'll be up for the challenge.
Oh, no question. Jumping down, another game on the 16th. This one's at 5:30, and gets the winner of West Lynn and South. That's Sherwood and Beaverton. A lot of talk about Beaverton this offseason, but let's start with Sherwood. What stands out about the Bowmen?
Yeah, Sherwood's a very strong program. They've won the Pacific Conference for, about 5 years running now. They're league favorites again this year. They have a very strong senior class led by Jared Sucher and Matthew Verkamp. They play a fun brand of basketball. They load the three, and they have a ton of weapons this year, particularly on the perimeter. And then looking at Beaverton, they're the preseason number 2 team in Class 6A. They're legit. Jalen Childs holds numerous Division I offers. He led the Metro League in scoring at Sunset last year. Chance Winter is 6'11" and led 6A in blocks last year at Glencoe. And that's just their transfers. They return a really, really good core. Max Elmgren was first team All Metro League last year as a sophomore. And then Brady and Aiden Rice are two really, really good players. Rice is, both Rices are cousins of former Oregon State standout Zach Reichel. They both can really play. Aiden had multiple 20-point games at last year's 6A state tournament. Brady Rice has, been all league several years now at Beaverton. Now he's a senior. He'll be playing college ball somewhere next year. And, Coach Vanschel does a great job, and he really maximizes what he gets out of his guys.
Coming into that year, those strong seniors that want to finish strong, I know, a lot of momentum early in the season trying to get things going. Heading down, this one we'll stick with December 16th, and again, you can find all these brackets on scorebooklive.com/Oregon and capitalcityclassic.com, where you can also find tickets and buy those in advance for this event that's coming up here quickly. Regis and West Salem take place. They are set to go in the first round. That's at 7 on the 16th. Starting with Regis, Jack, what do you see with this group?
Yeah, Regis is probably this year's favorite in Class 2A. They return Isaiah Conkey, who had a big time state tournament as a freshman. He had 28 in the game. They also add the CVC League Player of the Year, Diego Aguilar from Jefferson. And then Noah Koenig is another guard they have a very, very talented backcourt, and they should be a force in Class 2A. And then looking at West Salem, they won the event last year. They're loaded. They return a ton of pieces off last year's team. They have two of the best juniors in the state, and Connor Ortel and Trent Ferguson. Ferguson recently picked up football offers from Oregon and Oregon State after his first year playing football this year. A guy like Tommy Slack, I believe, led them in scoring last year and is also back. Jimmy Lathan and Jackson Leach were also key rotation pieces last year and are back. So they returned a ton of production, to a very successful team last year, 18-7.
I love it. And I want to preface this next part of the bracket by, you might know a little bit about one of these teams. Look at Silverton, which is not far down the road from Willamette, and then they're taking on Wilsonville, which I understand is your alma mater. But what do you see from starting with Silverton, what they table in that matchup?
Yeah, I mean, these two teams met in the state championship last year. Silverton, both programs have been really successful in recent memory. Coach Tyler Allen, he's taken over at Silverton this year. Former South Salem coach, was really, really successful there. 4 state semifinals in 8 years. He'll have to Silverton lost a ton of graduated production, or production to graduation, but he does a fantastic job, and Silverton will definitely be one of the favorites to take home the Mid-Willamette Conference crown. Couple guys to watch for them are 6'4" sophomore Brody Kunze and senior Evan Good. And then,
go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Then on the Wilsonville side, they graduated 2 seniors last year who started, and then lost a third in a football-related transfer. But they returned, all-state point guard Maxim Wu. And then Callum Guttridge led them in scoring last year as sophomore. He's back. And 6'7" wing Kyle Counts, who's the grandson of Oregon State legend and NBA player Mal Counts, is also back. Yeah, and looking at this pod, we think any could advance, but West Salem definitely has to be considered the favorite. They're the defending CCC champs, and have a ton of returning production.
Got to give respect to the defending champs, no doubt. That Wilsonville, underneath your assistant tournament director Garber, you're gonna have some sort of Wilsonville emblem, something coming through.
No.
Jersey underneath that thing,
No. They're great, but no, I'm completely neutral.
I love it. Well, that'll be a loaded portion of the bracket. Down to the final one to cap out the 16-team field. We're back on the 17th, that second first-round day. Central and Cascade taking on one another at 4 p.m. Starting with Central, what do you see with this group?
Yeah, Central's big. They're imposing. Coach Dean Sanderson may have the best Central team in a while. They're going to be really, really good. Most people think they're the consensus favorite to take home the Mid-Willamette Conference crown this year. We've heard sort of throughout our process, multiple committee members, heard that they were a sleeper state title contender in 5A. Chase Nelson returns. He's 6'5". He's quarterback, very, very good football player, but, pretty good hooper too, averaged 15 and 8 last year. 6'7" Matt Quinn is also back, so they have one of the best front courts in Class 5A. And then 6'3" Mikey Young, who played varsity ball as a freshman there. He tore his ACL during his sophomore COVID year. That was the abbreviated year, so he lost both his sophomore and junior year. But he's back this year, and he's a pretty good player. And then they also have 6'2" Sherwood transfer and Kai Bennett, who's pretty good, and another returning starter in 6'2" Dominic Castanon. So, Central's going to be legit. They're going to be a tough out. And then looking at Cascade, they're the preseason #1 team in 4A, defending state champions. They did lose Ty Best to a torn ACL over the summer, who is probably the best player in 4A, 6'8", all-state last year. Very, very good player. They have a number of talented guards. Seniors Sam and Spencer Horn, both were starters last year. Very, very good defensively. Both can shoot the lights out of it. Landon Knox is one of the top sophomores in the state. He's a transfer from 1A Cross Hill Christian. He had 20 in his Cascade debut last night. And then Rogue Newton is a D1 track athlete. He's a key rotation piece last year, tore his ACL, but he's back now. And, then they have a bunch of other talented sophomores. And Ty Best's little brother, Anthony Best, Drew Comstock is another sophomore, and Caden Ford as well.
Love it. Now we're on to this last matchup, and the winner of Cascade and Central get to play one of two very solid teams, Sprague or St. John Bosco of California, St. John Bosco being the third national team to touch on here to round this out. That game is at 8:30 on the 17th. Starting with Sprague, what stands out when you look at this group?
Yeah, I mean, when we looking at Sprague, we think the committee made a mistake after their opening game last night. The bracket was set prior to the start of the season, but Sprague looked unbelievable last night. Jared Stanley is a very, very talented sophomore who looks like he could be the next Ole Great. And then Liam Spencer, Grayson Long, and Matt Weiner are also very solid players. Coach Granetto does a great job there. They're in the playoffs annually. And even though Sprague lost a lot of production and a great player and all-stater Dallin Morgan from last year, last night they looked the part of a surefire 6A playoff team. Like with Canby, they were a team that was not seated at where they were. They were sort of rotated in the competitive balance side of things. Last night they were up 34-4 at one point on a very good Century team. And then looking at St. John Bosco, Bosco and Coach Matt Dunn, they do a great job. They're loaded with talent. LZ Harrington is the #1 point guard in the sophomore class nationally. Consensus top 10 player in the country. Cade Bonham is one of California's best sophomores. Jack Turner's a Loyola Chicago commit. He's just a shot maker, makes shots everywhere. They're very deep as well.
You look at a team like that, and BJ, I want to ask you this, particularly with this being a team you had coached in Sprague. You look at a team like St. John Bosco, and choose any solid team from out of state that you might not know a ton about outside of they're very talented. You could obviously have the benefit of scouting them early in the season, but going into a tournament where you're defending something, you're playing you're playing in your home state. There are a lot of really good Oregon teams in this field. How do you prepare your team for to take on maybe an imposing out-of-state foe like a St. John Bosco?
Well, I think the exciting piece is that you're playing against individuals that you can't. I remember back when I kind of started coaching, Kevin, you would have studs that would come to Oregon and play. Like I remember Kevin Durant came here, and I think you get the experience of playing some of those special players that might end up playing in the big show, and that's fun. I think one thing that I could say from the Sprague standpoint is, they're really young and they probably have no idea what they're even getting themselves into, which could be a big time benefit for them because they just go out and play anyways. But I think the biggest thing is you just go out and you play and you compete, and if you keep the score close, you give yourself a chance to win a game, and somebody who's expected to win could get tight, and you got to just make enough plays. So you just got to keep, especially at this time of the year, you got to just keep being you and figuring out who you are.
I love it. We got a great question here before we wrap things up from AJ Flint, who I appreciate you submitting this, AJ. Who is the dark horse to win the CCC title? This is a great one to end on. Jack, I'm going to throw this to you because you just told me about 16 very good teams and some very, very good teams. But is there one that rises above the rest? I know you got to be straight down the middle with this. Maybe one or two.
I'm gonna go Beaverton.
Cool.
I'm gonna go Beaverton. Just because I think they'll be really amped. For if both Westland and Beaverton can take care of business, that'll be number one, number 2 6A team in the quarterfinal. Coach Vansel does a great job. They beat Brandon Miller and Cambridge at the CCC last year. Lost a heartbreaker in double overtime in the semifinals last year. But Beaverton's a very talented team. They execute great. They sort of really maximize their guys. So that's my dark horse pick. BJ, who do you have on the Capital Toyota? Who's your dark horse to win it?
Well, the first thing is I think going on a limb and a dark horse picking the number 2 preseason ranked 6A team in the state might not be quite a dark horse, but I'm excited. I'm excited at our Toyota field. I think there's a lot of good. I like every one of our first round matchups. I think teams got to play well, and they're going to have to play, 3 nights in a row. Definitely some talent. I know Willamette stands out with their sophomores coming. If I had to lean, just because of kind of the senior wane and to win a tournament, I would go West Salem, just purely because they got a player of the year coming back, and they're led by 3 seniors. Senior leadership, I think at this point in time, can carry you 3 nights in a row. But I think there's a number of teams in our Capital Toyota girls field that can win a game or win the whole thing.
Well, I really appreciate these great breakdowns from you guys. The Capital Toyota Girls Classic taking place the December 19th through the 21st. The Capital City Classic Boys Field at Willamette University, the 16th through the 21st. Those brackets, as of the recording of this, are live. So head to capitalcityclassic.com, scorebooklive.com/Oregon, your home for high school sports news and information in the state of Oregon. And the Capital City Classic website, you guys, tickets are live. So anything else I missed? Anything to cap us off with, Jack?
No, we're looking forward to a great tournament. And thank you for hosting this. It was a blast.
Of course, yeah. Great talking with you guys, and it'll be here before we know it.
Thanks, Andy.
All right,
you.
happy hoop season.